The morning sun cast long shadows across the military base as Captain Sarah Mitchell adjusted her rifle scope one final time. She had been awake since 4 in the morning, running through her equipment check with the precision that had earned her the nickname Ghost among her fellow soldiers. Her hands moved smoothly over the barrel of her custom sniper rifle, a weapon she had modified herself over 3 years of active duty. Sarah was not like most soldiers in the Special Forces unit. Standing at 5 feet 6 inches with auburn hair pulled back in a tight bun, she had faced more skepticism than most when she first joined the team 2 years ago. But her shooting record spoke louder than any doubts. In her last 15 missions, she had never missed a target beyond 300 meters, and her longest confirmed kill was at 850 meters through thick jungle vegetation. The briefing room filled with the rest of Alpha Team as the clock struck 0600 hours. Lieutenant Colonel James Rodriguez entered with a serious expression that immediately told everyone this was not going to be a routine mission. Sarah took her usual seat near the back, her rifle case leaning against her chair. "Gentlemen and lady," Rodriguez began, nodding toward Sarah, "we have a situation in the Amazon region of Colombia. 3 days ago, our intelligence sources confirmed that a group of 20 armed insurgents have taken control of a remote village called San Miguel. They are holding approximately 40 civilians hostage, including women and children." The room remained silent as Rodriguez clicked his remote, displaying satellite images on the large screen behind him. The photos showed a small settlement surrounded by dense jungle, with several buildings clustered around a central square. Red markers indicated the suspected positions of enemy combatants. The insurgents are led by a man called Carlos Vega, a former military officer who went rogue 5 years ago. He and his men are heavily armed and have established defensive positions throughout the village. Local authorities are unable to handle the situation, and the Colombian government has requested our assistance. Sarah studied the satellite images carefully, noting the terrain features and potential sniper positions. The jungle around the village was thick, providing excellent cover for an approach, but also limiting sightlines for long-range engagement. She could see that the insurgents had chosen their location well. "Your mission," Rodriguez continued, "is to infiltrate the village, neutralize the hostile forces, and extract the civilians safely. Intelligence suggests the insurgents plan to move the hostages deeper into the jungle within the next 48 hours, so time is critical." Team leader Staff Sergeant Mike Chen, a veteran of 7 years in special operations, raised his hand. "Sir, what about air support or backup?" "This operation is classified as Black Ops," Rodriguez replied. "No official support will be available once you are in the field. You will be inserted by helicopter 20 kilometers from the target. Then proceed on foot. Extraction will be at the same location in 72 hours, whether the mission is complete or not." Sarah felt the familiar tightness in her stomach that came before every dangerous mission. But alongside, the nervousness was excitement. This was what she had trained for, what she lived for. Her role as the team's designated marksman meant she would be responsible for providing overwatch and eliminating high-value targets from distance. The team consisted of 6 members total. Besides Sarah and Sergeant Chen, there was Corporal David Park, the team's explosives expert, whose calm demeanor hid an almost supernatural ability with demolitions. Private First Class Tommy Williams served as their communications specialist and medic, despite being the youngest member at 22 years old. Sergeant Luis Ramirez handled heavy weapons and had grown up in similar jungle terrain in Guatemala. Finally, Corporal Alex Turner was their reconnaissance specialist, capable of moving through enemy territory like a shadow. After the briefing, the team spent the next 4 hours reviewing detailed maps of the area, studying the layout of San Miguel, and planning their approach route. Sarah worked with Turner to identify the best positions for sniper support around the village perimeter. They found 3 elevated positions that would give her overlapping fields of fire while remaining concealed in the jungle canopy. "The key is going to be timing," Chen explained as they gathered around the sand table model of the village. "Sarah will need to be in position before we make our move. Once shooting starts, she can provide cover while we advance and clear buildings." Sarah nodded, tracing potential sightlines with her finger on the map. "I can set up here on this ridge to the northwest. It gives me clear views of the main square and most of the buildings. If I need to relocate, there are 2 alternate positions with good cover. Williams looked concerned as he studied the intelligence photos. What if there are civilians mixed in with the hostiles? How do we avoid friendly fire? That is exactly why we need Sarah in Overwatch, Chen replied. She can see the whole battlefield and identify targets before we engage. Our job is to trust her judgment and follow her lead on target identification. The afternoon was spent in weapons preparation and final equipment checks. Sarah disassembled her rifle completely, cleaning each component with meticulous care. Her weapon was a modified version of the standard-issue sniper rifle, with custom modifications that she had made herself. The trigger had been adjusted to break cleanly at exactly 2 pounds of pressure. The scope was a high-end variable power model that could engage targets from 50 meters to over 1,000 meters with equal effectiveness. Her ammunition was hand-loaded match-grade rounds that she had personally tested and confirmed for accuracy. Each bullet was measured and weighed to ensure consistent performance. In her pack, she carried 60 rounds of ammunition, enough for a prolonged engagement but light enough to maintain mobility through the jungle terrain. The team's gear was stripped down to essentials. Each man carried his primary weapon, ammunition, water, field rations, and mission-specific equipment. Sarah's load was slightly different, including extra optical equipment and camouflage materials for building a concealed firing position. As evening approached, the team gathered for a final meal together. It was a tradition Chen had started, believing that sharing food before a mission helped build trust and camaraderie among the team members. The conversation was light, avoiding discussion of the upcoming operation in favor of stories from home and plans for leave time. Sarah found herself thinking about her family back in Oregon. Her parents still worried about her career choice, though they had stopped trying to talk her out of it after seeing how happy and confident she had become since joining the military. Her younger brother Jack had just started college and sent her emails full of questions about her adventures, though she could never tell him the real details of her work. At 2300 hours, the team loaded into a military transport vehicle for the ride to the helicopter landing zone. The night air was warm and humid, carrying the scents of the nearby jungle. Sarah checked her equipment one more time, running through her mental checklist of procedures and protocols. The helicopter was a modified Black Hawk, painted in dark colors and fitted with noise reduction technology to minimize the sound signature during flight. The pilot, a warrant officer named Stevens, briefed them on the flight plan and extraction procedures as the rotors spun up to operational speed. "Flight time is approximately 2 hours, Stevens shouted over the noise of the engines. "Weather is clear with minimal wind, so we should have a smooth insertion. I will return to this exact location in 72 hours at 0300 hours. If you are not here, I wait 15 minutes and then return to base." The helicopter lifted off into the dark night sky, carrying the team toward their objective. Sarah settled back in her seat and tried to rest, knowing that the next several days would test every skill she had learned in her military training. Through the window, she could see the lights of the city falling away below them as they headed into the darkness of the jungle. During the flight, Chen went over the operation timeline one more time. "We insert at 0100 hours and move immediately to our rally point, 2 kilometers from the target. Sarah breaks off to establish her sniper position, while the rest of us conduct final reconnaissance. We begin the assault at 0500 hours, just before dawn when the enemy guards are likely to be least alert." Sarah nodded, visualizing the terrain and her planned route to the sniper position. She had studied the satellite images until she could navigate the area in her mind, identifying landmarks and potential obstacles. Her position would be approximately 400 meters from the village, well within her effective range but far enough to avoid detection. The helicopter began its descent as they approached the insertion point. Through her night vision goggles, Sarah could see the endless expanse of jungle stretching in all directions. The landing zone was a small clearing barely large enough for the aircraft, surrounded by trees that towered over 60 feet high. Stevens brought the helicopter down with expert precision, touching down just long enough for the team to exit with their equipment. Within 30 seconds, they were on the ground, and the aircraft was lifting away into the night, leaving them alone in the jungle, with only the sounds of insects and distant night birds. Chen immediately took charge, organizing the team for movement. Using hand signals and whispered commands, he directed them toward their objective. The jungle was thick and humid, with visibility limited to just a few meters in any direction despite their night vision equipment. Sarah moved near the rear of the formation, her rifle slung across her back and her sidearm ready for immediate use. The jungle floor was soft underfoot, covered with decades of fallen leaves and rotting vegetation. Every step had to be carefully placed to avoid making noise that might alert enemy patrols or wild animals in the area. The team moved in single file, with Turner taking point to navigate and watch for obstacles or threats. Behind him came Park and Williams, followed by Ramirez with his heavy machine gun. Sarah and Chen brought up the rear, constantly watching their back trail for signs of pursuit. Progress through the jungle was slow but steady. The thick vegetation forced them to take a winding route, adding distance to their approach but providing excellent concealment from any enemy observation. After 2 hours of movement, they reached their rally point, a small depression surrounded by large trees that provided good cover. Chen gathered the team for a final briefing before Sarah departed for her sniper position. Remember, once Sarah is in place, we maintain radio silence, unless there is an emergency. She will observe the target area and report enemy positions and movements. We move to our assault positions at 0430 hours and wait for her signal to begin the attack. Sarah checked her radio one final time, confirming that she had clear communication with the team leader. Her earpiece was set to the team frequency, with backup channels programmed for emergency use. She also carried a satellite communication device for contact with headquarters if the mission went badly wrong. Taking her equipment, Sarah began the careful approach to her chosen sniper position. The route took her through some of the thickest jungle terrain, where she had to crawl under fallen logs and push through dense undergrowth. Her camouflaged uniform helped her blend with the shadows, but she moved with extreme care to avoid making any noise. As she got closer to the village, Sarah could see lights through the trees ahead. The insurgents were maintaining security around their perimeter, but their positions were predictable and poorly concealed. She counted at least 6 guards visible from her current position, and estimated there were probably twice that number hidden in the buildings. Sarah reached her planned position just as the sky began to show the first faint signs of dawn in the distance. She was now 420 meters from the main square of San Miguel, with clear sight lines to most of the village buildings. Using her rifle scope, she began a systematic observation of the target area, identifying enemy positions and looking for signs of the hostages. Sarah settled into her carefully constructed hide, using the natural contours of the jungle floor and available vegetation to create a position that would be invisible from any direction. She had learned these techniques during her advanced sniper training, where instructors had emphasized that the best sniper position was one that enemy forces would walk past without noticing. The village of San Miguel spread out before her like a tactical puzzle waiting to be solved. Through her variable power scope, she could observe the daily routines of the insurgents as they began their morning activities. Most were carrying older model assault rifles, though she spotted at least 2 with modern equipment that suggested recent external support. Her first priority was locating the hostages. Intelligence reports indicated they were being held in the largest building, which appeared to be the village church based on its architecture and central location. Sarah adjusted her scope to maximum magnification and carefully studied the structure. The building had thick walls and only 2 visible entrances, making it easily defendable but also limiting escape routes for the civilians inside. Through one of the church windows, Sarah caught a glimpse of movement that appeared to be several people sitting on the floor. The image was brief, but she noted the information in her mental log of observations. Confirming the location of the hostages would be crucial for the assault plan, as any mistake could result in civilian casualties. A guard patrol of 3 insurgents emerged from a building on the eastern side of the village square. Sarah tracked their movement through her scope, noting their route and timing. They walked casually, without the discipline or alertness she would expect from trained soldiers. This suggested that either they felt completely secure in their position, or they lacked proper military training. The patrol stopped near a well in the center of the square, where the guards lit cigarettes and talked in relaxed voices that carried clearly across the still morning air. Sarah could not understand their Spanish conversation, but their body language indicated they were discussing routine matters rather than security concerns. As the sun climbed higher, more insurgents became visible throughout the village. Sarah began creating a mental map of their positions and estimated numbers. She counted 14 fighters so far, which was lower than the intelligence estimate of 20. This could mean that some were inside buildings, or that the original count had been incorrect. At 04:15 hours, Sarah heard Chen's voice in her earpiece for the first time since reaching her position. "Ghost. This is Alpha Leader. Team is in position and ready to move. What do you see?" Sarah keyed her radio with a single click to acknowledge, then began her report in a whisper so quiet it was barely audible. "Alpha Leader, Ghost. I count 14 hostiles visible in the village. 6 are manning static positions around the perimeter. 3 are on roving patrol, and 5 are located in various buildings. The patrol pattern appears to change every 30 minutes. She paused to observe a new development as 2 insurgents emerged from the church building. Correction. I now observe 2 hostiles exiting the main building where hostages are believed to be held. Both are armed with assault rifles and appear to be guards for the prisoners. Chen's response was immediate. Understood, Ghost. Can you confirm hostage location and number? Sarah adjusted her position slightly to get a better angle on the church windows. The morning sun was now providing better illumination inside the building, and she could see more clearly through the openings. Affirmative on location. I can see approximately 8 to 10 civilians inside the main building, including what appears to be children. They are seated on the floor in the center of the room. The tactical situation was becoming clearer as Sarah continued her observations. The insurgents had established a defensive perimeter around the village, but their positions were designed more to prevent escape than to repel an organized attack. This suggested they were not expecting military intervention, which could work to the team's advantage. A new sound caught Sarah's attention as she heard vehicles approaching from the south. Through her scope, she watched as 2 pickup trucks entered the village square, carrying additional armed men. Her heart rate increased as she realized the enemy force was larger than expected and potentially still growing. Alpha Leader. Ghost. Be advised. Enemy reinforcements arriving. 2 vehicles with approximately 6 additional hostiles. Total count now 20. Repeat 20 enemy fighters in the village. The situation had just become significantly more complicated. Chen and his 4-man assault team were now outnumbered 4-1, making their mission much more dangerous. Sarah knew that her role as Overwatch sniper would be critical to evening the odds and protecting her teammates during the assault. The new arrivals appeared to be better equipped and more professional than the original insurgents. Their weapons were newer, and they moved with the discipline of experienced fighters. Sarah watched as they took positions around the village perimeter, improving the defensive layout considerably. One of the newcomers, a tall man with a beard and military-style clothing, appeared to be taking charge of the operation. Sarah observed him giving orders to the other fighters and pointing toward various positions around the village. This was likely Carlos Vega, the former military officer who was leading the insurgent group. At 04:45 hours, Chen's voice came through her earpiece again. Ghost. Alpha Leader. Enemy strength has increased beyond our initial planning. Are you confident you can provide effective overwatch against 20 targets? Sarah considered the question carefully. 20 targets was a significant number for one sniper to engage, even with the element of surprise. However, her position provided excellent fields of fire, and she had confidence in her shooting ability under pressure. Alpha Leader. Ghost. Affirmative. I can engage multiple targets, but will need to prioritize threats to team members during assault. Understood, Ghost. We are proceeding with the mission as planned. Stand by for execute order. Sarah made final adjustments to her rifle and scope settings, ensuring everything was optimized for the ranges she would be engaging. Her ammunition was arranged within easy reach, and she had planned her engagement sequence to eliminate the most dangerous targets first, while providing maximum support for the assault team. The village had settled into what appeared to be a routine morning schedule. Guards maintained their positions while others prepared food and conducted maintenance activities. Sarah noted that most of the insurgents appeared relaxed and unprepared for immediate combat. which would give the assault team a crucial advantage in the opening moments of the attack. At exactly 0500 hours, Chen's voice delivered the execute order. Ghost. Alpha Leader. We are beginning approach. Weapons free. On any threats to team members, confirm ready. Sarah settled behind her rifle and focused her breathing, entering the mental state that she had developed through countless hours of training. Alpha Leader, Ghost. In position and ready. I have eyes on primary target area and clear fields of fire. The assault began with Turner's movement toward the southern edge of the village. Sarah watched through her scope as the reconnaissance specialist approached the first guard position with the stealth that had made him invaluable to the team. The insurgent guard was facing away from Turner's approach, completely unaware of the danger moving toward him. Turner covered the final 20 meters in complete silence, using available cover to mask his approach. Sarah kept her crosshairs centered on a second guard, who might notice Turner's movement, ready to eliminate the threat if necessary. The takedown was clean and silent, with the guard neutralized without raising any alarm. However, the situation changed rapidly when Park triggered an improvised explosive device that the insurgents had placed along one of the approach routes. The explosion echoed through the jungle and immediately alerted every fighter in the village to the presence of attacking forces. Sarah watched as insurgents throughout the area grabbed their weapons and began moving toward defensive positions. Contact! Contact! Chen's voice crackled through the radio. IED detonation on approach route. Park is injured but mobile. All elements. Execute assault now. The element of surprise was lost, and the battle for San Miguel had begun in earnest. Sarah immediately acquired her first target, an insurgent who was running toward a position where he could engage Williams as the medic tried to help Park. Her first shot took the fighter down at 380 meters, dropping him before he could bring his weapon to bear. Sarah worked the bolt of her rifle smoothly, chambering a fresh round while already searching for her next target. A muzzle flash from a building window caught her attention as an insurgent opened fire on Ramirez's position. Her second shot shattered the window frame and eliminated the threat, allowing Ramirez to continue his advance with the heavy machine gun. The battle quickly intensified as more insurgents joined the fight. Sarah found herself engaging targets across the entire village as her teammates fought to establish positions and locate the hostages. Her training took over completely as she switched between targets based on immediate threats to team members, making each shot count. An insurgent appeared on the roof of a building overlooking Chen's position, preparing to throw a grenade down at the team leader. Sarah's third shot traveled 410 meters and struck the fighter in the center of mass, sending him tumbling from the roof before he could release the explosive device. The sound of automatic weapons fire filled the air as both sides engaged in earnest combat. Sarah could hear the distinctive sound of Ramirez's machine gun providing suppressing fire, mixed with the sharper reports of assault rifles and the occasional explosion of grenades. Through her scope, she watched muzzle flashes appearing from windows and doorways throughout the village. Williams appeared in her field of view, moving toward the church building where the hostages were being held. An insurgent emerged from cover behind a water barrel, clearly preparing to ambush the young medic. Sarah's fourth shot eliminated the threat just as Williams dove behind a stone wall for protection. Ghost, Alpha Leader. We are taking heavy fire from multiple positions. Can you suppress the fighters in the eastern buildings? Sarah immediately shifted her attention to the eastern side of the village, where she could see muzzle flashes from at least 3 different windows. Her fifth shot targeted a fighter who was firing from an upper floor window, while her sixth eliminated an insurgent who had taken position behind a wooden cart in the street. The tactical situation was fluid and dangerous, with insurgents moving between buildings and trying to establish overlapping fields of fire to trap the assault team. Sarah's role became crucial in preventing the enemy from coordinating their defense effectively. Each time fighters tried to move to better positions, her accurate fire forced them back into cover. Park, despite his injuries from the IED explosion, had recovered enough to continue the mission. Sarah watched him approach one of the buildings on the western side of the village, preparing to place explosive charges to create a new breach point for the assault. 2 insurgents appeared at a window above his position, obviously planning to drop grenades on him. Sarah's 7th and 8th shots came in rapid succession, eliminating both threats before they could harm the demolitions expert. Park completed his work and moved away just before the charges detonated, creating a massive hole in the building wall and eliminating several more insurgents who had been using the structure for cover. Turner had managed to reach the church building and was attempting to determine the exact location of the hostages inside. Through her scope, Sarah could see him moving carefully along the wall, trying to find a way to communicate with the civilians without alerting the guards. The success of the entire mission now depended on extracting the hostages safely while eliminating the remaining insurgents. The battle continued with increasing intensity as both sides committed all available forces. Sarah had fired 12 shots and eliminated 8 confirmed targets, but there were still at least 10 insurgents fighting actively throughout the village. Her teammates were making progress, but facing determined resistance from fighters who knew the terrain and had prepared defensive positions. A new threat emerged as Sarah spotted Carlos Vega himself, appearing at the main entrance to the church. The insurgent leader was armed with an assault rifle and appeared to be shouting orders to the guards inside the building. This presented both an opportunity and a serious risk, as eliminating Vega might end the resistance but could also trigger retaliation against the hostages. Sarah held her breath as she centered her crosshairs on Carlos Vega's center mass. The insurgent leader stood in the church doorway, clearly visible at 400 meters. This shot would be critical, not just tactically but psychologically. Eliminating the enemy commander could cause the remaining fighters to lose coordination and morale. However, Vega's position near the hostages created a complex problem. If Sarah missed, or if her bullet passed through the target, it could strike one of the civilians inside the church. She adjusted her aim point slightly lower to ensure that any bullet passing through would hit the ground rather than continuing into the building. Her 13th shot was perfect. Vega dropped immediately, his assault rifle clattering across the stone steps of the church entrance. Through her scope, Sarah saw the immediate reaction among the visible insurgents. As word of their leader's death spread quickly through the village, several fighters abandoned their positions and began moving toward escape routes into the jungle. Alpha leader, Ghost. Primary target eliminated. Enemy leader is down. I observed several hostiles breaking contact and withdrawing from defensive positions. Chen's response came between bursts of automatic weapons fire. Outstanding, Ghost. Continue engaging targets of opportunity. We are advancing on the church building now. Sarah immediately shifted her attention to support the assault team's final push toward the hostages. Turner had reached the side wall of the church and was preparing to breach the structure when 2 insurgents appeared around the corner of the building. Her 14th shot dropped the first fighter before he could raise his weapon, while her 15th eliminated the second as he tried to retreat back into cover. The systematic elimination of enemy fighters continued as Sarah worked methodically through her target list. Her training had taught her to prioritize threats based on their immediate danger to friendly forces, but also to consider the psychological impact of each shot on the remaining enemy fighters. A group of 3 insurgents attempted to establish a new defensive position using an overturned cart in the village square. Sarah engaged them with 3 rapid shots, firing as quickly as she could work the bolt action of her rifle. All 3 targets went down within 15 seconds, demonstrating the kind of precision shooting that had earned her reputation as one of the military's best snipers. Williams had reached the church building and was coordinating with Turner to locate and extract the hostages. Sarah watched as the medic disappeared through a side entrance. Knowing that her teammates were now in the most dangerous phase of the operation, any remaining insurgents inside the building would likely use the civilians as human shields or attempt to harm them rather than allow a rescue. The sound of gunfire from inside the church building indicated that Williams and Turner had encountered resistance from the guards. Sarah could not provide direct support since her teammates were now inside the structure, but she maintained overwatch on all possible escape routes to prevent any insurgents from fleeing with hostages. 2 fighters emerged from a building on the northern edge of the village, apparently trying to reach the jungle and escape the battle. Sarah's 19th and 20th shots eliminated both targets at nearly 500 meters, pushing the effective range of her weapon, but demonstrating the exceptional accuracy she had achieved through constant practice and perfect ammunition preparation. Ghost. Alpha leader. We have control of the hostage location. Friendly forces are securing civilians now. Continue to prevent enemy escape and withdrawal. Sarah felt a surge of relief knowing that the hostages were safe, but the mission was far from complete. At least 6 insurgents remained active in the village, and several more had already fled into the surrounding jungle. Her job now was to ensure that none of the escaping fighters could regroup and mount a counterattack against the extraction. Park appeared in her field of view, moving toward a building where intelligence had suggested the insurgents might be storing weapons and ammunition. The demolitions expert was carrying several explosive charges, obviously planning to destroy any equipment that could be used by future enemy forces in the area. Sarah provided overwatch as he approached the target building. An insurgent burst from a concealed position behind Park, raising an assault rifle and preparing to fire at point-blank range. Sarah's 21st shot traveled over 400 meters and arrived just in time to save Park's life. The enemy fighter dropped his weapon and collapsed before he could pull the trigger. The building explosion that followed Park's work illuminated the entire village as stored ammunition and weapons detonated in a massive fireball. The blast eliminated any remaining military equipment and also served notice to any hidden insurgents that continuing to fight was pointless. Several more fighters emerged from concealment with their hands raised in surrender. Ramirez had established a defensive perimeter around the church building, while Williams and Turner worked to move the hostages to safety. Sarah counted 8 civilians emerging from the building, including 3 children and 2 elderly women. All appeared to be in relatively good health despite their ordeal, though they moved slowly and showed obvious signs of fear and exhaustion. Alpha Leader, Ghost. I count 8 civilians evacuated from target building. All appear mobile and uninjured. Recommend immediate movement toward extraction point while we maintain security. Chen's voice reflected the urgency of their situation. Understood, Ghost. We are organizing for immediate withdrawal. Enemy forces may include additional fighters we have not yet encountered. Maintain overwatch during our movement to extraction. The extraction phase of the operation required different tactics than the assault. Instead of engaging fixed targets, Sarah now had to provide security for a moving column of people that included both her teammates and 8 civilian hostages. The route to the extraction point led through jungle terrain that could easily conceal enemy ambushes or pursuit forces. Sarah began her own withdrawal from the sniper position, carefully packing her equipment while maintaining visual surveillance of the village area. She had fired 21 rounds during the engagement and eliminated 17 confirmed targets, significantly reducing the enemy force and enabling the successful rescue of all hostages. The movement toward extraction began with Turner leading the column, while Park and Ramirez provided rear security. Williams stayed with the civilians, providing medical care and reassurance during the difficult trek through jungle terrain. Chen coordinated the movement while maintaining radio communication with Sarah as she moved parallel to the main group. Progress through the jungle was necessarily slow due to the presence of civilian hostages who were not equipped or trained for military movement. The children were particularly challenging, as they tired quickly and needed frequent rest stops. Sarah monitored the surrounding area for signs of pursuit, while her teammates focused on moving the rescued civilians safely. 2 hours into the withdrawal movement, Sarah detected signs that they were being followed. Her position on higher ground gave her a clear view of their back trail, where she spotted movement that appeared to be armed figures attempting to track the rescue party. She immediately reported this information to Chen while moving to a position where she could engage the pursuit force. Alpha Leader, Ghost. We have possible pursuit approximately 1 kilometer behind our position. I count at least 4 individuals moving on our trail. Recommend increased pace if possible. The tactical situation had become a running firefight as the remaining insurgents attempted to recapture the hostages or prevent their extraction. Sarah positioned herself to provide rear guard support, knowing that her accurate long-range fire was the team's best defense against pursuit forces operating in familiar terrain. Her 22nd shot eliminated the lead tracker at over 600 meters, forcing the remaining pursuers to take cover and slowing their advance considerably. This gave the main rescue party additional time to increase their distance from the enemy forces and reach more defensible terrain. The extraction point was still 8 kilometers away through difficult jungle terrain. Sarah knew that maintaining this pace while protecting 8 civilian hostages would be extremely challenging, especially if the enemy forces included additional fighters who had not been present during the initial assault on the village. Chen made the decision to call for early extraction, using the satellite communication system to request helicopter pickup at an alternate location that was closer to their current position. The new extraction point was only 4 kilometers away, but it required crossing a river and moving through an area where enemy forces might have established observation posts. Sarah provided continuous overwatch as the group approached the river crossing. The water was shallow, but fast-moving, requiring each person to be assisted across individually. This created a vulnerable moment when the entire party was exposed in the open area near the riverbank, with limited cover available. Her 23rd shot eliminated an insurgent who appeared in the tree line on the opposite bank, clearly positioned to ambush the crossing party. Sarah immediately shifted her position and fired her 24th shot at a second target, ensuring that the area was clear before her teammates began moving the civilians across the water. The helicopter extraction went smoothly, with Stevens bringing his aircraft into the small clearing exactly as scheduled. Sarah was the last person to board, maintaining security until all team members and rescued civilians were safely aboard the aircraft. As the helicopter lifted off and flew toward base, she finally allowed herself to relax for the first time in over 12 hours. During the flight back to base, Sarah reviewed her performance during the mission. She had fired 24 rounds and achieved 21 confirmed eliminations, with the remaining 3 shots serving to suppress enemy movement and provide cover for her teammates. More importantly, all 8 hostages had been rescued successfully, and every member of Alpha Team was returning safely. The debriefing session took place immediately upon return to base, with Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez conducting a detailed review of the mission from start to finish. Sarah's performance as the team's designated marksman received particular attention, as her accurate shooting had been crucial to the success of the operation. Your ability to provide precise supporting fire while maintaining overwatch of the entire battlefield was exceptional, Rodriguez told Sarah during her individual debrief. The mission would not have succeeded without your contribution, and I am recommending you for commendation based on your actions today. The rescued civilians were transported to medical facilities for evaluation and treatment. Though initial assessments indicated that none had suffered serious physical harm during their captivity, the psychological impact would require longer-term care. But all 8 individuals were expected to make full recoveries from their ordeal. Sarah spent the remainder of the day cleaning and maintaining her equipment, preparing for the next mission that would inevitably come. Her rifle was thoroughly cleaned and inspected, with all components checked for wear or damage. The weapon had performed flawlessly during the engagement, confirming that her modifications and maintenance procedures were effective. The success of the San Miguel rescue operation demonstrated the effectiveness of small, highly trained special operations teams when properly supported by skilled snipers. Sarah's role as Overwatch had allowed 4 assault team members to successfully engage and defeat 20 enemy fighters, while protecting 8 civilian hostages in complex terrain. That evening, Sarah called her family in Oregon to let them know she was safe. Though she could not provide details about her recent activities, her parents could hear the satisfaction in her voice, understanding that their daughter had successfully completed another dangerous mission that she could not discuss openly. As she prepared for sleep that night, Sarah reflected on the events of the past day. Every shot she had taken had been carefully planned and executed with precision, ensuring that her teammates could complete their mission while minimizing risks to civilian hostages. This was exactly the kind of work she had trained for, and she felt proud of her contribution to a successful operation. The mission report would eventually reach higher levels of command, where the techniques and tactics used during the San Miguel rescue would be studied and incorporated into training programs for future special operations. Sarah's performance would become part of the official record, demonstrating the critical importance of skilled snipers in modern military operations. 3 days later, Alpha Team received notification of their next assignment, another dangerous mission in a different part of the world, where their unique skills would be needed to protect innocent lives and defeat enemy forces. Sarah began preparing immediately, knowing that somewhere, people were depending on her ability to place accurate rifle fire exactly where it was needed most.